Hi, and welcome to Stamp with Ginny. Today I'm going to share with you this fun fold card that shows off our designer series paper. I've used the products in the mixed media floral suite for this project, so let me set this aside and I'll show you how to get started. Okay, for this fun fold I'm going to start by scoring my cardstock at the 4 1/4 inch mark. And I can set my scoreboard aside. Next, I'm going to stamp my sentiment on my basic white cardstock, and I'm going to stamp this right in the center because I'm going to be die cutting this out. Let's see, I have a little bit of a halo here, so I'm going to redo that, being careful not to rock. Next, I'm going to bring in my panel for my focal point, and I'm going to ink up my floral image here. I'm doing this upside down since this is a large stamp and I want to be able to see my coverage so that it's well covered. And then I'm going to set this down, straight down, 1, 2, 3, and straight up. Last but not least, I'm going to stamp a little bit of an image on the inside of my card. This is my signature panel, and I just want to add a little pop of color down here in the left-hand corner. I've got that finished and I'm ready to color. For this project, I kind of want a impressionistic look or watercolor look that kind of mimics the paper that I'm using. And so I'm going to bring in my dark boho, and I'm simply going to add a few little flowers here. I'm not going to color the whole thing. I'm just adding a pop of color randomly around this panel of flowers, and then I'm going to bring in my light and do the same on some of them. And as you can see, I'm not doing the whole flower. I'm just kind of adding a little bit of flower and allowing the white to show. There we go. I've got my inside panel done, and I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to do the same thing here on my focal point. I'm going to bring in some color on those little flowers first with my boho. This time I'm using my light. And then I'm going to bring in my dark and add some more of those flowers. Go. I've got my boho blue done, and I'm ready to move on to the center of these Lazy Susans, and I'm going to use my dark first, and I'm just going to lay in some of that color quickly. Once again, leaving some white, and then I'm going to bring in the light daffodil and just add another little bit of color around that first bit of color. Let's see, I don't want to leave a straight line. I've got that finished, and I'm ready to bring in my green. Now I'm using two different tones of green. I'm using my Granny Apple and my Mossy Meadow, and I'm going to start with the Granny Apple here, and I'm just going to lay in some color on the greenery. Once again, leaving a bit of that white show. And then I'm going to come back with my Mossy Meadow, and I'm going to add some shadow to that, just randomly again, leaving a little bit of that white showing. And I'm going to lay that in on the leaves also. There we go. I've got that finished, and I'm ready to move on my flowers. I'm going to use my Calypso Coral and my Petal Pink for this. And I'm going to start with this small flower here. I'm going to add in some of those darker petals. I'm going to allow some of the white showing, so I'm going to do this just here and there. Then I'm going to bring in the lighter shade and add another color. Some of these are going to get filled in, and some are not. And then I'm going to take my petal pink and I'm going to add my final color. Now at this point I can go over and blend if I want to, adding in some dark shades. I'm ready to move on to my large daisy, and I'm going to do the same thing. So there we go. I'm finished coloring my flowers, and it's got this more fluid look to it than coloring the whole thing. So I'm ready to move on to die cutting my sentiment and building the card. Okay, I've die cut my sentiment out and I have all my pieces, so I'm ready to start assembling. Now I'm going to start by folding on my score line here to create my fun fold. And I'm going to adhere my focal point down to this die cut panel in basic black. I wanted to use a little bit of textured edge on this, so I picked a die set. I'm going to bring in my inside panel, and for this I'm going to adhere this down just like I always would on the inside of my card. I'm doing this first so that I can see exactly where this panel goes, and it will allow me to adhere the next panel a little easier without allowing this to show. So I'm going to bring in my designer series paper here, and I'm going to lay this right on my panel. I'm going to add some adhesive to the inside of my cardstock. I'm going to add it here on the outside edge and along the top. And if you notice, I'm going to add some to the bottom also, but I'm going to do a little short of where I need it on my paper. And I'm going to add a small strip down here on my designer series paper, and I can go all the way up to the edge on this, but not going over, because what I'm going to do is fold this down and burnish. And what that does is adhere my designer series paper exactly where I want it on my card, like so. And as you can see, my stamped image mimics the flower image on the inside. Once I have that done, I'm ready to add my designer series panel to the outside of my card front. And I've lined up the top and bottom edges with my designer series paper. Next, I'm able to add my focal point here. I'm not going to pop this up because I will be popping up my sentiment. So I can adhere this flat down onto the panel, like so. Next, I'm going to bring in my sentiment. I'm going to flip this over and add some dimensionals. I love the fact that our basic white cardstock is thick enough for us to stamp on both sides, like I did when you make a oops, like I had with my halo. I'm going to adhere this down, offset a little, like so. The last thing I'm going to do is bring in these low profile dots. They come in two colors, the gold and the petal pink, and I'm going to add a few of these to the card front. So I'm going to pop one, let's see, I think over here, and then I'm going to pop another one like so, and a small one here up on the top, just to move my eye around the card front and add a little bit of shine. So there you go, a quick and easy fun fold using the Mixed Floral stamp set and other products from the Mixed Media Floral Suite. I hope you've enjoyed this project, and of course if you'd like any of these products, feel free to stop by my online store. You can get there from my blog, Stamp with Jini. Thanks for joining me.